Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. And in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Thursday, November the 18th. We got a 6-game Thursday slate. Pretty nice size slate. It's good to have a game or a slate of games, 6 to 8 games. That's kind of what I really like. That's what I enjoy. I've been kind of annoyed with, like, we'll have like a 10, 11 game slate, and then the next day we'll have like a 2-game or a 3-game slate. I like 6, 8, 9 games, somewhere in that range. So 6-game slate tonight. As always, guys, we're going to go game by game. We're going to talk through each game on the slate, break down each team, kind of give my thoughts, what does stand out to me looking at this slate at first look on Wednesday night. This is one of those days where we are going to have to pay attention to injury news. There are a lot of key guys questionable today, Steph Curry being one of the biggest ones, but there's some teams on a back-to-back, like Miami's on a back-to-back. Bam Adebayo did not play Wednesday, so we're going to have to keep an eye on his status. Spencer Dinwiddie seems unlikely to play given it's a back-to-back for Washington, but OG Anunoby is questionable. Jared Allen is questionable. Will Barton is doubtful, I believe. Cleveland's on a back-to-back, so Kevin Love returned from COVID Wednesday with played limited minutes. Like, does Kevin Love play today since it's a back-to-back? We don't really know. So this is definitely going to be a day where we're going to have to pay attention to the injury report, pay attention to injury news. As always, guys, these are my first looks at the slate, but if you do want more updated content from me after we get injury updates, after we get starting lineups and everything, I do provide, a lot more updated content over on Patreon. My full updated core plays are posted over there about an hour before lock. I also give my rankings where I list off my top 20 plays, both for DraftKings and for Yahoo. I list off my favorite plays in order of interest. I do my sheet for both DraftKings and Yahoo, listing off my favorite plays at each position, and then I highlight them based on how they rank. And I also have a Discord chat you can join where you can basically ask me questions anytime during the day, even before lock, after lock, whenever it may be. I'm always in Discord to answer all the Patreon members' questions. So if you want to check out the Patreon, you want to become a Patreon member, link down below in the description. You can see everything that I do have to offer over there. I also do give out some of my favorite plays each day on Prize Picks. Prize Picks, they are the sponsor of this video. I know a lot of you guys already do play on Prize Picks, but if you're new here, you want to check out Prize Picks. If you do sign up, use code NOAH, and they will match your first deposit. They will give you a free bet up to $100. And you can take a look at what Prize Picks has to offer. They are more of a player prop-based DFS site, so you're basically going to be picking the over or the under on their projections. No projections yet for NBA for Thursday, but they already have stuff up for Thursday Night Football. You can take a look at everything they have up for Thursday Night Football. They got fantasy point projections. Obviously, they will have NBA stuff posted probably early Thursday morning, but they have other sports too: college football, college basketball, PGA, MMA. PrizePicks basically has every sport imaginable, and it's very simple, guys. You just take a look at the projections. You pick over or under on the projections. You make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 5 picks, and you can win up to 10x your money over on PrizePicks. So if you want to sign up, use code NOAH. They'll give you a free bet, match your first deposit up to $100 when you do sign up with my code. But let's go ahead and start off with the Warriors and Cavs game, first game of the night, and this is definitely one of the more important ones to watch when it comes to injuries. Starting off on the Golden State side, Steph Curry, like I said, is questionable today. I mean, this is obviously huge news that is going to impact the slate a ton. Steph Curry obviously plays a ton of minutes. He's a very high usage player as well. So getting him off the floor, there's going to be a lot of minutes to go around. There's going to be a lot of usage to go around. If Steph Curry is able to play today, I mean, on a shorter slate like this, 6 games, I think Steph is obviously a good pay-up option. I do prefer Jokic straight up, though. I think Jokic overall is my favorite pay-up option on the slate. But Steph, if he plays at 11-8, this is a hefty price tag for Steph, but we've seen the upside he has. We know that Steph, can go out there and just light up a slate, put up 70, 80 DraftKings points. I mean, he had freaking 88 DraftKings points early this year against Atlanta. When Steph gets hot, the dude just has massive upside. He's definitely in play if he does wind up playing today. If he does not play, if he gets ruled out, I think we can look to guys like Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole. I would assume these are going to be 2 of the bigger beneficiaries so far this year when you look at usage on the Warriors with Steph off the floor. Jordan Poole has a 35.2% usage rate. He's averaged over a fantasy point per minute. And Andrew Wiggins has the second highest usage rate on the team, 29.9%. And he has also averaged, close to a fantasy point per minute this season with Steph off the floor. So both Wiggins and Jordan Poole would get a pretty nice boost. I rarely play Andrew Wiggins. I hate playing Andrew Wiggins, but he would definitely be a good play on this slate if Steph is out. Now, I do want to say that Draymond Green actually, he does better when Steph is on the floor. Draymond's not a guy that really creates his own shot. He's not really like an aggressive offensive player. A lot of his big fantasy games come from peripheral. So when he gets a lot of rebounds, he gets a lot of assists, he gets defensive stats. That's when Draymond can put up massive games. And he does better with Steph on the floor because Steph's obviously a great shooter. Draymond can pass the ball to Steph, get easy assists that way. his fantasy numbers, this year and just throughout his time with the Warriors, they've actually been worse when Steph is off the floor. So if Steph does not play, I don't really think that's a big boost for Draymond. If anything, it might make him a worse play. I would definitely like Wiggins and Poole, though, a lot. And then there would probably be some more minutes available for some of these other guards, like Gary Payton at 3,900 would probably be a viable cheap play. Damian Lee at 3,200 could also be a guy worth considering. The Warriors are a team that they do run a pretty deep rotation. They just, they're going to spread out the minutes between like all these bench guys. But Gary Payton lately has been getting pretty good minutes. Been playing about 15, 20 minutes a night. If Steph were to be out, I think we'd probably see like Gary Payton get up to like 24, 26 minutes. He'd be a pretty solid value play. And then Damian Lee, his minutes have kind of been up and down for the most part, but last few games he has played at least 20 minutes in 3 of their last 5 games. I think there'd be more minutes available for him as well for 3,200. If Steph were to be out, I would like Damian Lee quite a bit for value as well. But for now, assuming Steph plays, I think Steph is a pretty good pay-up option if he does play. I think Draymond is fine as well at 6,700. Definitely would have some interest in Draymond. But that's probably it from Golden State, I think. For the most part, I don't see too much else I like on this team. Andre Iguodala's out, so maybe Otto Porter plays a few more minutes, but I don't think I'd be going to Otto Porter on this slate. Maybe you could go there if Steph winds up sitting. I mean, with Steph out, if he were to be out, like there's just going to be so much usage available, so many more scoring opportunities for guys like Poole and Wiggins and some of these bench guys that, it wouldn't be surprising to see one of these bench guys do well, besides the guards if Steph were to be out. But I think I'm really going to be focusing on the guys that, we mainly talked about. But moving on to the Cleveland side, so Cleveland, another team we're going to have to watch when it comes to injuries. They're on a back-to-back. Jarrett Allen did not play Wednesday. We don't know yet his status for Thursday's game. Kevin Love made his debut Wednesday, but this is a back-to-back. So again, does Kevin Love play today? I'm not sure. They've kind of said we've seen them rest Kevin Love a lot on back-to-backs this year. Plus, he's returning from COVID, so I just don't know. For now, I'm going to assume that Kevin Love plays. If Kevin Love plays and if Jarrett Allen plays, I don't see a ton I like from Cleveland. Cleveland's been a team we've kind of been targeting lately because they've been so shorthanded. But if they do get Jarrett Allen back today and if Kevin Love plays as well, then it's just really hard to go to a ton of these Cleveland guys. I will say that Jarrett Allen at 7,500 would be a pretty good play. With Evan Mobley out, I think we would see the minutes for Jarrett Allen be pretty high. Even in a tougher matchup against the Warriors, I think Jarrett Allen will probably play like 35, 36 minutes. The Warriors are a team that do play small for the most part, so we probably will see Draymond going up against Jarrett Allen a lot if Allen's out there. Draymond's a really good defender, but I think he's definitely undersized compared to Jarrett Allen. I think the minutes would be very high for Allen, if he's able to play today. So he might be my favorite play from Cleveland. I think Ricky Rubio's fine too. He has started the last few games. He's been playing pretty good minutes, 37, 33 minutes these last few games. He would probably play like mid-30s minutes once again. At 6,900, his price has gotten to a point where I don't think he really stands out as like a top play for me, but still viable. Same could be said for Darius Garland. Kevin Love was limited to, I think, like 22 minutes on Wednesday, I do believe. I had interest in Kevin Love for Wednesday's slate, but I got off of him once it was reported that he was on a minutes limit. Yeah, he played 21 and a half minutes, so if Kevin Love plays today, I assume he'll be on a minutes limit again, so it's really tough to go to him at 6,600. Jetty Osman's all the way up to 6,100 now. Really tough to play Jetty Osman now that he's 6,100. And then like Markkanen could play today. I don't know if he'll get full minutes though. If Lauri Markkanen does play and he's able to play full minutes, like he actually would be a pretty good play at 5,200. But that's news we'll have to wait and see on. Isaac Okoro, now that he's almost 5K, don't have much interest there. Dean Wade at 4,200. Like Dean Wade's going to play a ton of minutes, but God, I just don't really want to play Dean Wade. I will say that if Jarrett Allen and Kevin Love both play, then I wouldn't have really that much interest in Dean Wade because with Allen back, with Love in the rotation now, I don't know if he'd play as many minutes as he did Wednesday night. But, the opportunity, I think, would still be there because, they're still without Mobley. They're still without Sexton. Markkanen maybe could play today. We don't know yet. I would say if Markkanen, Allen, and Love all play, then, yeah, no interest in Dean Wade for me. And then the only other guys I'll mention will be the cheaper centers. So we did actually see Ed Davis start at center on a Wednesday night, and he played 24 minutes. He was pretty productive, averaged close to a fantasy point per minute, had 23 DK points. If Jarrett Allen does not play today, I assume they will start Ed Davis at center again. If he does start at center again, I mean, he's 3,600. I don't think he would play a ton of minutes, but on a smaller slate like this, depending on what kind of value opens up, if we don't really get much value, Ed Davis, if he does wind up starting again, could maybe be a viable cheap play. But that's it for me from Cleveland. This is going to be, overall, this is a game we're going to have to target or pay attention to when it comes to injury, to the injury report. This could be a game worth targeting depending on who gets ruled out here. Luckily, it's the first game of the night, so we'll have all this news before lock. But let's move on to the next one, talk about the Wizards and the Heat. So looking at the Wizards today, you got Bradley Beal, 9,400. I really haven't been on Bradley Beal a lot this year, but I definitely have some interest in him today, especially with Spencer Dinwiddie not expected to play. Spencer Dinwiddie, with it being a back-to-back, they've already said that he is likely to be out Thursday. So without Spencer Dinwiddie, I think that does really benefit Bradley Beal. We're looking at Washington's usage this year. Bradley Beal has played 189 minutes without Spencer Dinwiddie. He has averaged 1.21 fantasy points per minute with a 34.8% usage rate. His usage rate has gone up, it's gone up 1.6%. His fantasy point per minute average has gone from 1.08 to 1.21. So he's been a lot more productive with Dinwiddie off the court. At 9,400, I don't think Bradley Beal is going to get a ton of ownership today, especially because it's a tougher matchup against the Heat. But I do like Bradley Beal quite a bit. I like him on Yahoo a lot. I think $37 at shooting guard is probably way too cheap for Bradley Beal. He definitely stands out as one of the better shooting guard plays on Yahoo. He had been out recently for personal reasons, but he did come back Wednesday against Charlotte, and he played big minutes, 35 minutes, had 43 DK points. Bradley Beal has not really been a guy worth paying up for this year, just because we haven't really seen him show a ton of upside. But now that there's no Dinwiddie, assuming Dinwiddie does not play, I think the ceiling for Bradley Beal is a lot higher. I'm pretty sure it was this game against Atlanta. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that was the game. I think Dinwiddie was out this game as well, because that was also a back-to-back. So yeah, October 28th when they played Atlanta, this was a game when Dinwiddie was out. Bradley Beal put up 51 DK points, played 38 minutes. We could see similar production from him tonight, even in a tougher matchup against Miami. So I definitely like Bradley Beal. I think Kyle Kuzma gets a little bit more opportunity without Dinwiddie. At 6,600, he feels priced about right, but I think he is definitely playable. And then the rest of the Miami guys, or Washington guys, I'm not as high on. I will say that, since there's no Dinwiddie, there's probably going to be some value to go to here. We'll have to wait and see what the starting lineup is. I assume Aaron Holiday will be the guy that moves into the starting lineup. We saw him start 2 games ago, or there are 2 games before Wednesday night. We saw him start in place of Bradley Beal, played 35 and 27 minutes, and I'm pretty sure earlier this year when Dinwiddie was out, he did start. I think it was the Atlanta game. I think Aaron Holiday did start that game. If he does wind up starting for 3,800, he could be a viable cheap play. Raul Neto could see some more opportunity as well. His minutes have kind of been up and down this year, but I think there'd be more playing time available for him. At 3,200, he'd be another value play worth considering. Whoever starts, I think, is more likely to play the most minutes between Neto and Holiday. Neto's a slightly more productive player. He maybe gives you a bit more upside, but we're just going to have to wait and see on what the starting lineup is. Whoever starts for Dinwiddie could definitely be a value play worth targeting on this slate. But I think that's it for Washington. We can go ahead and move on to the Miami side. So Miami, another team that's kind of tough to break down right now just because we don't really know who's going to play here. It's a back-to-back for Miami. Jimmy Butler was questionable Wednesday, but he wound up playing and actually had a really good game. Kyle Lowry was out for rest, but he's expected to play today, obviously. And then Bam Adebayo was questionable, did not play Wednesday, and his status is up in the air for Thursday's game. I assume Bam will play today, but we don't know yet for sure. Assuming that everyone is in, so like Butler, Bam, assuming all these guys play, even in a matchup against the Wizards, I don't know if there's a ton that stands out here. I think Bam at 8,400 might be my favorite play from Miami. Bam in this matchup against Washington should be able to have a lot of success, whether it's, Daniel Gafford or Montrezl Harrell going up against him. Like, those are matchups that Bam can easily win in. He definitely would be a good center play at 8,400. Jimmy Butler would be a fine pay-up option. I don't think he'd be someone I'd be prioritizing on this slate. But obviously, if Bam were to be ruled out, that would definitely make me like Jimmy a lot more. We saw Jimmy put up a massive triple-double, 64 Draftkings points Wednesday night against the Pelicans, with Bam and Lowry both out. If those guys were to return, that obviously would hurt, Jimmy a decent amount, but he would still be fine. It'd still be a guy you could pay up for. But like Lowry, now that he's at 7,600, I don't really have any interest in him, especially if, Butler and Bam are both playing today. Same could be said for Hero. And then the rest of the Miami guys I'm not really on, so for me, if Bam is in, the only thing that stands out from Miami is probably Bam himself as a solid play, and then Jimmy, I think, is a fine pay-up option too. But we're going to have to wait and see, with Bam's status. If he does get ruled out, that will, change my thoughts here. But obviously, if we get this news before I go live, we can obviously talk about it in the live stream. I will be live, about an hour before lock. I normally go live every slate Monday through Friday. So if you guys don't tune into the live streams, I'm always live about an hour before lock, answering all your questions, talking through the slate as well, breaking down, any news that comes out during the day. But let's go ahead and move on to the next game, Clippers and Grizzlies. So the Clippers are another team that potentially could be very shorthanded. We know Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris are going to remain out, but Terrence Mann is questionable as well. He was questionable last game, did not play, and Nicholas Batum is doubtful. So Nicholas Batum played in their last game, but I believe he got injured. He didn't play much at all, and he is doubtful, so not expected to play today. But looking at the Clippers at the top, Paul George, 11K. Look, Paul George has been great this year. He has shown a lot of upside. He's playing a ton of minutes every night. I don't know if he's going to be a stud that I prioritize on this slate. I think I would prefer Jokic. I think I'd probably prefer Steph as well if Steph plays. But obviously, PG is viable. He's just going to get a ton of opportunity. Same could be said for Reggie Jackson. His price at $6,500. It's gotten to the point where I don't think Reggie Jackson really stands out at his price point. But as a mid-range guard option, he's totally fine. He's going to play a ton of minutes. Doesn't really have a massive ceiling, but at $6,500 and a pretty good matchup against Memphis, I think Reggie Jackson's fine. I think Eric Bledsoe at $5,800 feels priced about right, but his minutes have been a little bit more secure lately. We've seen him playing 35, 36 minutes some of these games. I think if Terrence Mann were to be out again, that would definitely solidify the minutes for Eric Bledsoe. I would feel a little bit better about him if Mann were to be out. Ivica Zubac at $5,100. His minutes have been pretty good lately. He's been getting 25 to 30 minutes. If there's no Nicholas Batum, which obviously it seems like that's going to be the case with Batum doubtful, I think it is a lot more likely we see Zubac play around 30 minutes again. The Clippers, they like to run small ball lineups. They like to play Nicholas Batum some at the 5, which obviously does not, that's going to take away minutes from Zubac. But when Batum is not out there, they're going to have a lot of, there's going to be a lot of center minutes available for Zubac. The only other lineups I could see them running would be like really small ball lineups with like Paul George at the 5. And I guess they could do that here, especially if Memphis winds up going small as well and plays like Jaren Jackson Jr. at the 5. I guess Paul George could match up against Triple J, but I think for any minutes that like Steven Adams is on the floor, they're probably going to have Zubac out there, matching with Steven Adams, and we could see Zubac, play even more. I think no Nicholas Batum is definitely beneficial for Zubac. So at $5,100, he does feel like a pretty good option if you want to go to him at the center position. And then Terrence Mann for $4,700, if he plays today, I think he's actually a pretty good play. There's a good possibility that he would move into the starting lineup with Batum out. They probably would just, slide everyone down. They would start Reggie, Eric Bledsoe, Terrence Mann. They would slide Paul George down to the 4, and then, obviously Zubac at the 5. So I think Terrence Mann probably would start here if he's able to play. He would definitely be a solid option at $4,700. If he gets ruled out, which, kind of seems like that's going to be the case. He was questionable last game, did not play. We don't really have an update yet. If Mann is out, I like Luke Kennard quite a bit. I know Luke Kennard was not good last game, but he did play 31 minutes. And now if there's no Terrence Mann and no Nicholas Batum, it's possible we see Luke Kennard potentially start here in place of Batum, and he could wind up playing like 34, 35 minutes. Now, Luke Kennard's a guy that I just hate playing because he's so scoring dependent. He's going to have to knock down shots to really put up a big game. But if he's projected to play like 32, 34 minutes at $4,400, he's going to project as a pretty solid value today. Now, we'll have to wait and see if Terrence Mann plays. I think if Terrence Mann plays, I would rather play Terrence Mann over Kennard. But for now, I do like plugging in Kennard as kind of a first-look value. I think without Batum, there is going to be more minutes available for both these guys. Kennard's super cheap on Yahoo. I like him a lot over there as well. He's $11 at the small forward position. I think he does stand out as a very solid value on Yahoo. And then the rest of these Clippers guys, not much interest here. I will say that Brandon Boston just kind of came out of nowhere and played 20 minutes last game and was really productive, had 22 DK points. I have no idea if that happens again. He really hasn't even been in the rotation this season, and then he just played 20 minutes randomly last game. With how short-handed they are, with no Nicholas Batum, doubtful for this game. Terrence Mann, questionable, could maybe be out as well. Justice Winslow, I think, is out too. He was out last game. I'm pretty sure he's out again. Yeah, Justice Winslow out again. Like maybe Brandon Boston plays again, like plays 20, 25 minutes again. I would only go there if Terrence Mann and Batum are both out. But if they are, and you want to take a shot on Brandon Boston, hope he gets like 20 minutes again, I think it's fine for $3,300. But that's probably it from the Clippers. Moving on to the Grizzlies now. This Grizzlies team, their prices have really gotten to a point where there's not a ton of standout plays from Memphis on a nightly basis. John Morant at 10K. Look, John Morant has a lot of upside. He's shown a ton of upside this season. We've seen a lot of 50-point games from him. At 10K, though, you need 50-plus DK points for him for him to be really even worth his salary. Honestly, you probably want like 55, 60. Could he put up 55, 60 here? Absolutely, John Morant could. I don't think he's going to be a stud that I prioritize today. I would just rather play like Jokic and Curry. I probably would rather play PG on the other side of this game. Ja Morant's obviously playable, but not a standout option for me. Triple J at 6,300, I kind of have some interest in. He's a guy that, foul trouble is a concern for him. It's always a concern for Triple J, but when he can stay out of foul trouble and you do get like 30, 32 minutes, he definitely has shown upside. They're playing him a good amount at center as well. Like, they've been using him a lot at center, which has definitely helped his fantasy upside in general and his just fantasy value. He might be my favorite play from Memphis overall when you look at the pricing. Dillon Brooks has played a few games this year. His minutes have kind of been up and down, but like the Houston game, I know that was a big-time blowout. He only played 23 minutes that game. I assume Dillon Brooks will play like low 30s minutes here. I think at this point, his minutes restriction is basically gone. I mean, I think he's played enough now to where he should be getting his full minutes. So if we do get like 32, 34 minutes from Dillon Brooks, I mean, it's 6K. He is definitely playable. Not a standout option, but definitely playable on the slate. And that's probably it from Memphis. Bane and Melton, their price tags have come way down, but now that Dillon Brooks is playing and healthy again, that definitely hurts both those guys, and we've kind of seen their minutes trend down lately. They're a lot more riskier now, so it's really tough to go there. Steven Adams at 4,600, maybe you could go to, but I think if I was going to play a center in this game, I probably would just take Zubac over Steven Adams. But Steven Adams did have a really good game earlier this year against the Clippers for what that's worth. 39 DK points in 26 minutes. Again, I think I'd rather just play Zubac, but Steven Adams is playable if you need a cheap center option. That's probably it, though, from this game. So moving on to the next one, San Antonio and Minnesota. So looking at the Spurs here, Dejounte Murray, 9,800, kind of falls into that same category as Ja Morant for me. Obviously, Dejounte Murray has a lot of upside, and he has shown a lot of upside this season. Back-to-back 60-plus point games from him, 61 DK points against the Lakers, 60 DK points against the Clippers. He is playing massive minutes this year. He's going to be an all-star. He's having a breakout year. The Spurs in general are not a great team, but Dejounte Murray is an elite player. He's shown elite upside for fantasy, especially this year, getting a ton of usage, a ton of opportunity. Good matchup against Minnesota. Should be a relatively fast-paced game. So far this year, the Timberwolves and the Spurs are both top 10 in pace this season. So I think Dejounte Murray has a lot of tournament upside. I don't think he's going to project that well for his salary, so he's going to be a tough stud to prioritize, but definitely still in play for me, just because we've seen the massive upside that Dejounte Murray has. He's for sure my favorite play from the Spurs in general. The rest of these guys, I'm not as high on. I will say that Derek White, I liked a lot last slate. He was just underpriced, especially because it was such a short slate, only 3 games. We have 6 games tonight. I don't know if Derek White's as good of an option as he was a couple days ago with less games and less options, but 5,300 is still a little bit too cheap for Derek White, especially in what should be a pretty fast-paced game against Minnesota, and in what is a good matchup as well. We're going to see Derek White probably play 30 to 32 minutes here. He should average close to a fantasy point per minute. Probably my second favorite play from the Spurs behind Dejounte Murray. Keldon Johnson's playable, but don't love him at his price tag. Thad Young and Drew Eubanks are going to split the center minutes. Thad Young's been a really good point per minute player this year. If he plays 25 minutes, he can give you 30, 35 DK points. Feels priced about right, though, for a 6-game slate. Same could be said for Drew Eubanks. I think the guards are my 2 favorite plays here. Murray and White, definitely the guys I like most from San Antonio. Now, on the Minnesota side, Minnesota is on a back-to-back today, but I assume, everyone should be good to go for Minnesota. Towns coming in at 10,500. Karl Anthony Towns he's been a tough guy to pay up for this year. We've yet to really see a ton of massive ceiling games from Cat. He had a pretty bad game Wednesday night against Sacramento. He has had some 50, 55-point games, but for the most part, he's been overpriced basically every slate. He just doesn't really ever project that well for his salary. We know Towns can put up a big game any night, but it's really tough for me to pay up for Cat right now over guys like Steph and Jokic and even PG, who's been a lot more consistent. So not a ton of interest in Cat. Obviously playable, but not a guy that I'm really going to be, jamming in. I think D. Russ and Anthony Edwards are both fine options in the mid-range. Both these guys are going to play a ton of minutes. They are also guys that have kind of been inconsistent this year, but we know Anthony Edwards has a big ceiling. We know D'Angelo Russell can get hot as well. I think both those guys are, again, fine options in the mid-range. That's probably it, though, from Minnesota. Patrick Beverley's going to start, play probably 30 to 35 minutes. For 4,200, I don't know if he's a guy that really has massive upside. I know he had 38 DK points Wednesday night against Sacramento, but that's usually that's not what you should expect from Patrick Beverley. Normally he's going to score 25, 28 DK points. But at 4,200, if we don't really get any value during the day, I think Patrick Beverley for 4,200 is probably going to project as a decent value play. I could see going to him if you need a cheap point guard. But that's it for Minnesota. That's it for this game. Next one, the Sixers and the Nuggets. So the Sixers, Another team that's going to continue to remain, really shorthanded. No Joel Embiid, no Ben Simmons, no Danny Green, no Matisse Thybulle. The key guys that are really out right now for them. So, with all these guys out, we've seen Tobias Harris really dominate the usage on this team, especially since he's come back from COVID. We've seen him play 3 games since coming back. He's played big minutes, except, last game against Utah, which was just a massive blowout. He was on pace, though, to play like 36, 37 minutes in that game had it been close. But he's played 37 and 35 minutes in their last 2 competitive games. Had a really big game against the Pacers, 51 DK points. This matchup on the road against Denver may not be the best for Tobias Harris. There's maybe a little bit of blowout potential here, but Tobias Harris does have a big ceiling. I will say that I do like him a lot more on Yahoo. If you play on Yahoo, I think Tobias Harris, again, he's just too cheap over there. I played him last slate. I thought he was too cheap. He was $31. Price tag still hasn't moved. Still only $31 on Yahoo. I would be a lot more likely to play Tobias Harris there than on Draftkings, but still playable on DK. Andre Drummond, he's really tough to go to right now. He's kind of in the doghouse. Like last game, I'm pretty sure he got benched, and like they basically just decided not to play him the rest of the game. He played only 12 minutes. Rudy Gobert was just eating him up on the glass. He just couldn't do it. Drummond couldn't stop Gobert. Going up against Jokic, like I don't think the Sixers really have a choice. Like they're gonna have to put Drummond out there, because if they don't put Drummond out there, their next options are like, Charles Bassey, Paul Reed, like those are the guys that are going to be stopping. That's one of the reasons I like Jokic so much today. Like they just don't have anyone to stop Jokic, and Drummond himself is a really bad defender. So I would assume that Drummond plays big minutes here just because they don't really have anyone else to guard Jokic. But last game, Doc Rivers literally benched Drummond because he was playing so bad and because he couldn't really stop Gobert. Does he get benched here? It's possible. I don't know. Drummond's been really good this year when he's gotten minutes, like in terms of fantasy. He is someone that can stuff the stat sheet, can put up big games, but for 8,200, I don't think he really is a guy I'm going to be jamming in today. Same could be said for Maxey, who's 7,100. Tough to pay, over 7K for Maxey right now. Shake Milton is definitely my favorite play from the Sixers overall. 5K on DraftKings. I like him a lot. I like him a lot on Yahoo as well. He is very cheap over there, $12. We actually saw Shake Milton start last game in place of Danny Green, and he played big minutes, played 35 minutes, was pretty productive as well, had 27 DK points. Shake has always been pretty productive when he does get minutes, especially when he's not having to play alongside Embiid and, Ben Simmons, and obviously both those guys are out right now. So I'm expecting Shake Milton to start again. I'm expecting him to play probably 30 to 35 minutes. At 5K, he looks like one of the better, cheaper options at guard. I think he's one of the better value plays right now in general. Really, really like Shake Milton. Seth Curry, a little bit riskier, but should play big minutes here if it is a close game. He obviously was limited a little bit last game due to blowout. We know Seth Curry has some upside. He can get hot. He's a decent scorer. He's kind of scoring dependent, but still playable at 4,900. Court Moss, very scoring dependent player. Should play pretty big minutes, though, especially with Danny Green out. They're just so short-handed right now. They're going to run a pretty tight rotation to where Court Moss will get close to 30 minutes. Playable at 4,400, but not a standout option. That's probably it, though, from Philly. I think that's everything that really stands out here. Definitely Shake Milton's the guy that really, really catches my eye, that I like most from the Sixers. I think Tobias Harris is a really good play on Yahoo. He's fine on DraftKings as well. But that's it for the Philly side. Now, looking at Denver, Denver is also a very short-handed team today. They're going to be without Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., as you expect. Both those guys are going to be out. Jamal Murray, I don't know when he's going to come back. MPJ is going to be out for a few weeks, I think, is what they said. But Will Barton is also doubtful, so he's been out their last 2 games. He got injured, I know he was a late scratch one of their games, and then he didn't play last game either. Now he's doubtful for today, so he's not expected to play once again. Without Jamal Murray, without Will Barton, without Michael Porter Jr., literally outside of Jokic, all the other good players for Denver are out right now. So Jokic is just going to absolutely dominate here. He's going to dominate the usage. He's 12K, but I don't care. I'm going to try and find a way to fit in Jokic today. $54 on Yahoo. I definitely want to be jamming him in over there as well. I wanted to pull up the usage this year, just see what Jokic's numbers are, because I assume he has a massive usage rate, especially with, let's take MPJ and Will Barton off the floor and just see what kind of numbers we get. I'm sure it's going to be a really, really small sample size just because he hasn't played a ton of minutes without those guys. Jokic has played, so he's played 103 minutes this year without Will Barton and without Michael Porter Jr. Jokic has a 38.5% usage rate, averaging 1.88 fantasy points per minute, has a 40% assist percentage, and a 25.3% total rebound percentage. Just, absurd numbers for Jokic. The dude's playing out of his mind right now. He's getting a ton of minutes every night. He's absolutely stuffing the stat sheet. He's going to get to face against Andre Drummond and whoever. Charles Bassey, I almost said Grant Riller. Grant Riller's out. He's going to face against Drummond and Charles Bassey and Paul Reed. Like, good fucking luck with these guys. Like, they have no shot of stopping Jokic here. And I hate to, like, I think matchups are a lot overblown in NBA. Like, I think, oh, who's going to guard this guy? Oh, I think this guy's going to eat because this player's guarding him. Like, I don't think that matters too much. But definitely here, the Sixers have nobody to stop Jokic here. Jokic, regardless of matchup, is going to be a top play every slate, especially on this slate with how much usage, how much opportunity he's getting right now. With all these guys out for Denver, Jokic is a top play for me. He is someone I am definitely going to be jamming in. Even at 12K, he's a really scary fade just because it feels like almost every night right now, Jokic is going to put up like 60. He almost has like a 50, 60-point floor, it seems like. But some of these other guys from Denver, I think, are kind of appealing just because there is so much opportunity right now and there's minutes available as well. Now, Aaron Gordon has just been terrible with Denver. He has shown like zero fantasy upside at all. He did have a really good game against Atlanta, but for the most part, Aaron Gordon has just he's shown no ceiling. Even without Michael Porter Jr. and Will Barton and Jamal Murray, I still really don't want to play Aaron Gordon. I think Monte Morris looks like a good option, though. He's $4,700 on DraftKings, pretty cheap. He's pretty affordable on Yahoo as well at $18. I actually do like Monte Morris quite a bit. He's been really good lately without Will Barton. These last few games with Barton out, we see Monte Morris play really well, put up big games, 36 and 35 DraftKings points. Should see big minutes as well. And looking at his numbers this year, he has played, so Monte Morris has played 79 minutes with both Barton and MPJ off the floor. Has a pretty solid 21.6% usage rate, and he's actually averaged over a fantasy point per minute this season. So for 4,700, I think Monte Morris is probably the number 2 scorer on this team behind Jokic. When you look at, who else they have with, Murray, Barton, and MPJ all out, I think Monte Morris is kind of the guy they're turning to, to give Jokic a rest, whenever there's someone else that needs to score. It's been Monte Morris lately, so I actually like him a good amount on both sides. Then the rest of these Denver guys, I'm not confident in really many of these other guys, but Jeff Green's going to play probably 30 to 35 minutes. He doesn't really have a ton of upside, but he's cheap and he's going to play minutes, so he's definitely playable. PJ Dozier coming off the bench probably gets low 20s minutes. Not a guy I'd be considering, but for the late slate, I think that's fine. Bones Highland's been playing really well lately. Now, last game he only got 11 minutes, but he should see more opportunity without Will Barton, without MPJ, without Jamal Murray. Bones Highland has been pretty productive this year with Denver. When he has gotten minutes, he's shown some upside too. A little bit of a riskier option just because the minutes aren't secure for him, but at 3,400, if you need a cheap play, I think he is viable at least. And Austin Rivers has been the guy starting in place of Will Barton lately, but Austin Rivers he just doesn't have a ton of upside. He's really, really scoring dependent. He's not going to do much except shoot, and even then, he doesn't really take a ton of shots. Last game, he played 29 minutes, but he shot the ball 7 times, had 12 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 steal. So, even though Austin Rivers is going to start and probably play close to 30 minutes, I don't really want to go there at 3,300. Just don't really know what his ceiling is at this point. So, for the most part, from Denver, it's obviously Jokic is a great play here, and I really like Monte Morris as well. Aaron Gordon's playable, Jeff Green's playable, Bones I think's fine, but Jokic and Monte Morris are the 2 guys that really stand out to me from Denver. But last game of the night, we'll talk about the Jazz and the Raptors real quick before we do in the video. So looking at the Raptors today, pretty important injury here with OG Anunoby being questionable. Obviously, OG is a starter, so they're going to have to, there would be someone to move into the starting lineup here if OG were to sit. I assume it would probably be Svi Mykhailiuk. Svi Mykhailiuk is 3,100. He's another guy that, I don't really like playing that much because he's pretty scoring dependent, but we don't really have a ton of value right now. I think Svi Mykhailiuk, I want to start off with him. He would be a pretty good value today if OG were to be ruled out and Svi were to start. And then I think if OG sits, there would be more usage available for the main guys, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes. Those guys would be fine as well. VanVleet, I think at 8,300, feels priced about right. On the road against Utah, this is not the most ideal spot here, but these Raptors guys are just going to play so many freaking minutes. Fred VanVleet this year, I'm pretty sure leads the league in minutes per game. He's played at least 36 minutes in 10 straight games. If this is a close game, Fred VanVleet's going to play close to 40 minutes. So you can never go wrong with him. Same with Pascal Siakam. We've seen him get back to his full minutes lately. He played 39 minutes last game against Portland. He is basically off of his minutes restriction. He's going to play close to 40 minutes as well. Between Siakam or VanVleet, I think I'd take Siakam, especially because he's a little bit cheaper. I would like these guys a little bit more if OG gets ruled out. And then Scotty Barnes, probably would only go to Scotty Barnes if OG sits. If OG plays, I don't love him at his price point. Same could be said for Gary Trent. I know Gary Trent's been playing really well lately, but he's also a scoring-dependent player. 5,900. He feels priced about right. But again, Gary Trent, he's going to play a ton of minutes as well. So these guys are all playable. I don't think there's any core plays coming from Toronto for me, but there's a lot of guys here that you could definitely have in your player pool. I will say that if OG does get ruled out, then I will like these guys a lot more. Van Vliet, Siakam, Barnes, Trent, and then Svi Mykhailiuk as a value play. And then Precious Achiuwa and Chris Boucher, I believe, are both questionable. I don't know if this matters too much. If anything, if they're both out, that just secures Pascal Siakam for big minutes. Keem Birch, I think, would get some run too. He did play 21 minutes last game. I don't think he'd really be a viable cheap option, but if you're playing like a showdown slate or something, or the night slate, I guess you could go there. But that's probably it from Toronto. I think we can talk about Utah now real quick before we end the video. So for Utah, this is a team, man, when they're fully healthy, I rarely roster these guys. For the most part, everyone on Utah, almost every slate, they feel all priced where they should be. Donovan Mitchell, 8,900, like that price feels right. Same with Rudy Gobert at 8K. Don't think there's any standout plays coming from the Jazz. I don't see really any value here either. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are in play. They have upside, but they don't really project that well for their salaries. I don't think they're really guys I'm going to be building around on this slate. Same could be said for Mike Conley and Bojan and Clarkson. So not too much I like from Utah here. Definitely, I think my interest in this game is coming on the Raptors side, and especially if OG winds up sitting. A lot of those Raptors guys we talk about would look like pretty solid options, even in a tougher matchup against Utah. But that's it for this 6-game slate, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. I appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed, please do click the like button down below. Click the subscribe button as well. And if you have not yet, go sign up for PrizePicks. Use promo code NOAH when you sign up for PrizePicks. Check out everything they have to offer. Take a look at some of their projections for Thursday Night Football. You can take a look at some of the stuff they have for other sports. Obviously, they'll have NBA stuff posted probably early Thursday morning. You can make some picks for NBA. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 5 picks and win potentially up to 10x your money over on PrizePicks. So if you have not signed up yet, go check them out, sign up, use code NOAH. They will give you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. But good luck tonight, guys. That's it for me. I'm out of here. Best of luck. We will see you in the next video.